Hi guys, long time no see. I know it's been a while, but I'm trying. I have a whole lot of books just ready to review for you guys, and I'm just trying to put them together. But Happy New Year! A little late, but Happy New Year! So the first book that I want to talk to you about in 2025 is called She Would Be King by Liberian author Wayetu. Now, this is a book that I read in 2019, and I think it's probably one of my favorite books by an African author that's written in this century. My absolute favorite book that's been written by an African author is Arrow of God by the late, great Nigerian author Chinua Achebe. She Would Be King is not written, it's narrated for us by the wind, or the ghost of a formerly enslaved woman named Charlotte. Now, Charlotte connects us to three protagonists in the story, a bunch of young black superheroes, really. We first start by meeting Bessa. She is branded a witch by her community due to the ominous events that were present at her birth. So she's left in the jungle to die. We learn that she's incapable of death, especially after she's bitten by a highly venomous snake and encounters all sorts of different obstacles while in the jungle and doesn't die. Next, we meet Junde. Now, Junde is my favorite of all the characters in this book because he possesses Herculean strength. Junde is born on a Virginia plantation, and he has to flee after getting into it with an overseer. Now, when you hear overseer, what's the first thing that comes to mind? For me, it's whips. It's the person on the plantation who is attempting to keep all of the enslaved people in line by abusing them. Junde gets into it, and he attacks, well, after being assaulted, he attacks the overseer and his heavies. The topic of slavery is so thick and so intense that for me, whenever I read anything about it or I see anything about it depicted in a movie or anything like that, I have these little fantasies in my head that I can travel back in time with the freedoms that I have today and the knowledge that I have today and the technologies that we have today, such as drones and bombs, right? And that I can obliterate anybody who was involved in such an atrocious and horrendous part of history. Junde exacts revenge for all of us. Okay, he fulfills all of my fantasies in that regard. He takes the overseer to town. He beats him up really, really badly. I mean, he injures him along with his heavies. All right. So because of this, he has to flee because history tells us what would have happened to him. And then next we meet Norman Aragon. Now, Norman Aragon is the son of a maroon woman and a British researcher who comes to Jamaica to conduct research on the enslaved people who are there. Norman Aragon's super ability is that he blends into his environment. So he can blend into the earth, into trees, into anything. Now, the blending in is a means of survival as well as a war tactic. All three of these characters somehow managed to converge in the nation of Liberia during the abolition of intercontinental slave trading. The US government had sent many former enslaved people or enslaved persons to Liberia for recolonization. And Bessa, Norman Aragon, and Junde end up in Liberia under some different circumstances. Now, what they come to know is that the formerly enslaved people, or the new African Americans who arrive in Liberia, begin to treat the indigenous people of that country as if they are slaves themselves. So they are taking on the mentality, or they've taken on the mentality of their white colonizers and treating the people who are there as if they are inferior to them. Can you imagine what I'm saying to you here? Can you imagine? Now, this is no different from being in Ghana when sometimes people treat their house helps as if they're, well, slaves. I've seen people beating the house helps. I've seen them talking down to house helps. I have seen their own children treating house helps as if they are beneath them. This is something that unfortunately is common with the well-to-do, at least when I was a child. Maybe things are different now and things have changed in the country, but that's how it was. So anyway, back to She Would Be King. When I read this part of the book, it very quickly took me back to, a time in my life that I had witnessed these sorts of treatments on people. And then we learn that the reason why the three protagonists came together in this country is that they have to save themselves and the indigenous Liberians, as well as the newly arrived African Americans, from a new and existential threats to all of their existence. Now, I really enjoyed this book because Wayetu Moore writes, her writing is like poetry. So it's beautiful. And generally I'm not really into poetry, but this works and it's quite brilliant for this book. Now, this falls into the young adult category because our characters are teenagers, okay? But what I really love about it is that you have young Black superheroes. And if you are somebody who enjoys books with a lot of action, with a lot of thrill, or even movies with a lot of action, like Marvel movies, okay? I don't miss Marvel movies. I mean, me and my husband and I, we are Marvel fans, so I don't miss any of them. I love those kinds of movies. I feel like this would be a great Marvel movie to have three young Black superheroes with different supernatural abilities. I think it's awesome. But I really enjoyed this book. I think that you will like it too. You don't have to be a young adult to enjoy it. It has quite enough content in there for all sorts of readers. Thank you for joining me. I hope that you've enjoyed this review. If you have, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.